on the call just to stand up and take a bow. She'll be assisting me with the chats. Thanks, Elizabeth. And just looking at those. So if you have any questions during the session, please pop it in. Elizabeth, sorry, I'm going to keep quiet for you to speak now.
Thank you, Pipla. As my colleague Pipla said, I'm going to be on the chats today. So if there's anything that you want Pipla to go over again, more slowly maybe, or just repeat because you missed that first button he clicked on, please put in the chat and I'll alert him to it. Or any questions that you have, if I can answer it, I'll answer it. Otherwise, Pipla, I'll hand the questions over to you. So please feel free, get that chat going. We're all ready to engage with you guys this morning.
Exactly. Thanks, Elizabeth. And yes, please, the session is about you or for you to make Google and Google Scholar work for you. So to make it as effective as possible. So if there's anything you want me to repeat, please interrupt, ask a question. I really want this to be an interactive session. So I'm going to get started by sharing my screen. And then I'm going to jump to my slides. Now I'm just get that out of the way. There we are. So I'm going to jump between live and the slides. I'm going to just start us off with just some basics about Google and Google Scholar, how it works, the indexing, and so forth. And then I'm going to jump to live. So what we'll basically be covering is looking at Google indexing and understanding how Google works. And that really will empower us to use it effectively. We're going to look at some Google searching techniques, some pros and cons of using Google and Google Scholar. Then also going to look at the Google Scholar settings, how to set that up so it links through to PDFs when we are looking for those, and then some Google Scholar search tips and tricks. So I'm going to start then by explaining how Google works and how the indexing works and how we can really make it work for us. So the first thing I always like to start with is to say that Google does what we call full text indexing. So wherever your keywords appear in the title, in the abstract, in the entire document, and sometimes even in your reference list, Google will return results that match. So I call it very noisy. There's a lot of noise that comes along and it takes a lot of sifting and searching. So it's really important to search effectively when we are using Google Scholar. I call this Google Scholar's blessing and its curse. It indexes or lists so much information that it really overwhelms you, and it takes a lot of sifting and filtering and looking and searching. And often what you'll see is the first few pages, very effective, very accurate results. But as you click through, it becoming less and less so. So the strategies I'm going to share with you today will assist us to do that. So to help us refine the noise, get through and filter to the information that we want. So I always just do a little exercise when it comes to Google Scholar indexing. And while I'm doing this, I just want to say that it's also very useful for reverse engineering. So often I'll find students, or students will come to me and ask, they've quoted this, they can't remember where they found it. Something like Google is very effective in reverse engineering like this. So I just want to demonstrate it like this. I've taken this text straight from a specific book, and I'm going to copy it as it is there, and I'm going to go to normal Google, and in the search box, in quotation marks. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with some of the search tips and tricks we've shared in the library or are aware of, please speak to your faculty librarian. We've got a lot of help in that regard. I'm not going to cover too much of Boolean searching. I'll do some, but if you really want some more help, your faculty librarian is your first stop. So I've simply pasted that exact phrase into Google with my quotation marks to keep it as a single phrase. And here we can see exactly where it's from. So this one is specifically from The Truth About Economics Critical Thinking. And there we have the book. So it's very useful for reverse engineering. And again, that just shows you how the indexing works. It searches the entire document and returns information. So from here, I'm going to jump back to my slides. Right, then just some more search tips. There are a few things that are built into Google. So Google does automatically put an and between your spaces. Now that is one of the Boolean operators, your and or a not. So if I don't specify anything and I just search, Google will automatically put an and in the spaces. So that's where you can see if I search with a full phrase or a whole question, there's so many keywords that hit and return. So that's why it's always most effective to search using keywords, as we always recommend in the library. The next thing I want to mention is that case doesn't really matter except for your operators. So your and, your or, and your not. And as a rule, I usually would put that in capitals for any academic database that I use, merely for the reason that certain databases do recognize or does recognize the operators in small caps and others don't. And I like to work with phrases that I can copy and paste. So as soon as I have a phrase, I can copy and paste that into anything I'm searching. So that's why I always recommend using the uppercase for your operators. The next tip, and for some reason, this does give different results, and there's just no explanation why this happens, but you can use the plus sign as the and you can use the minus sign as the not in both Google and Google Scholar. The next thing is that word order also matters. So always put your most important keywords at the front of your search. So Google ranks results according to the order in which you search. And we're going to demonstrate some of this when we get to the searching. Then the final thing is Google does ignore punctuations except where it is part of the modifier, part of the operator, and I'll show you that again when we are searching. But if you take a whole phrase with its full stops, its exclamations, Google will remove that and search the words itself. Then finally, before we go live, I just want to share this few modifiers that I'll also be demonstrating. And this really is what's going to refine our searching and make our searching very effective. And the first one is the in title operator. Now, the in title operator allows me to tell Google wherever I want a specific word to appear in the title. Now, remember, Google automatically searches the title, the abstract, the full text, and the reference list for those keywords. So if I specify that I want something specifically in the title of the document, Google will search that keyword on that specific domain. The in URL, on the other hand, also allows us to search a specific domain, in this case, the URL of the specific website or whatever we are searching. And I'm going to demonstrate this when we go live. The final ones we can also use is define and then also file type. Now, I'm not a big user of the define, but it is possible. I do quite like the file type. Now, again, this is just personal preference, use as you see fit. So the file type I'll demonstrate as well when we get to the live, which is now. So I'm going to focus the next part. So that was, yeah, 5 minutes, but I really want to focus on the searching and getting that right. So we're going to jump to Google Scholar. I'm going to start there and I'm just going to I'm just going to share some very useful tips along with the modifiers and the specific information we know about Google and how we can refine and our phrase when we are searching. So I'm going to close these slides and I'm going to jump then to Google Scholar where we'll start. Google Scholar. Right. And if there are any chats, Elizabeth, at any point, please interrupt me if there's any questions. But I'm going to start with Google Scholar. And yeah, I'm just going to do a quick search because I just want to show you the first thing I want to show you. So I'm just going to do a search for development economics and hit search. And you'll see on the right are some PDFs. So these do appear, and as well as the full text is Stellenbosch. Now these appear if you're on campus, but also if you've set up your Google Scholar settings to link to library holdings. Now I said the library works with Google Scholar. What I mean by that is our holdings are available on Google Scholar. So wherever we do encounter information that is available through our holdings, it does link to the full text through Google Scholar, so to that PDF. Now, this isn't true of all the information, but for most of it, there is these links available. Right, so I'm going to start by showing you how to set up these links. And this I will do at the More options. So top left corner of Google Scholar, I'll select More options. That's the 3 bars, and I'll select Settings right at the bottom. Once I've selected settings, I'll see a few options. The first, search results, languages. The one I'm interested in is library links. Once I've selected library links, you'll see for me it says that Stellenbosch University full text of Stellenbosch is already available. That's simply because it's already set up on my device. If you are working from home and you don't see it there, all you'll do is search it. So you'll simply search Stellenbosch in that search box, hit search, and you'll see it won't be selected. So you'll simply select and save. And now if you conduct any search, you will see this full text at Stellenbosch. So again, just one more time on the left, top left, the 3 bars, more options, settings, library links from that, and then simply search Stellenbosch if it doesn't appear, and then click in and save. And now anytime I conduct a search, let's for instance just do um, human computer interaction, computer interaction, and I never know if this has a hyphen in. There we are. So there we have our full text links, full text at Stellenbosch. And if I want access, I'll simply click on that. And what it does, it links through from the library's catalog to the full text of that article. So to the PDF. Let me just see. So what you'll also see, sometimes it'll go straight through. Other times it will give you options. This simply means that this specific information is available on multiple databases. So as a rule, I just start from the top and work my way down until I find that article. And it should be available from the very first database. Now, again, another option you might have is to have that you'll have to search for the specific volume and issue, but I suspect, I hope, this one goes to, there we are, the full article, and there it is available for download. And that's how easy it is to set up your settings within Google Scholar so it links through straight to the PDF. So there's no more struggling to find or access the PDF. All you do whenever I encounter it on another database, I simply copy that title, put it into Google Scholar, and look for that link and link through. Right, so that's just to show you how simple that is with the full text at Stellenbosch. I'm going to do another search now, and now I am just want to show you the advanced search. So I'm going to click on Google Scholar, go to the home. So a lot of the modifiers I'm going to show you here are available in Google Scholar's advanced search. Again, from the top left corner, the more options, you'll see there sits my advanced search. So from here, I can already be very specific in what I'm looking for. So I can say that I want with all words. I can go say an exact phrase, so that would be my quotation marks normally. For instance, if I wanted to look for development economics, the exact phrase, I could pop it in there. And then with at least one of these words, I can pop in there, and then without. So that would be my not. And I suspect that would be my or. And then I can refine even more. I can say anywhere, and then this is the in title essentially. So I can say I'm looking for this specific keyword, for instance, in the title of my document. I can also go and say I want specific authors. So I can look for authors if I know what the author is and I'm struggling to find other information. I can also go as far as saying which not database, which journal I'm looking for this information. So for instance, I remember I read something from the South African Journal of Business Management, but for instance, I can't remember the exact article. It discussed this and this and this. And it was in this journal, so then I could use those keywords and say, I'm looking for this exact journal, and it must appear there. So the advanced search already has a lot of presets that you can filter on or can include already. And of course, your date range. So for instance, if you are looking for a specific date range, you're using, for instance, doing research on a more current topic, you might want to do the last 5 years, for instance, or you're doing research on a COVID-related incident or research, you might want to then focus from 2020 to 2022. And that would be already a lot of things that you can use the advanced search for to do your filtering from the start. So remember the advanced search, which does help you a lot, but I like to use the modifiers because again, I would use it in normal Google as well. And normal Google doesn't have that advanced option necessarily. Right, so I'm going to do an in URL, no, in title. For me, this is the most effective search that you would do within Google Scholar. So the in URL you won't really use on Google Scholar, that will focus on when we do normal Google. And remember, we always start broad. So I want to start with a term that's very important to my research, but but I don't want to put the in title on every single keyword because it might be too specific. So I want to start with one important keyword and work my way from there. See how many results I get and then focus on the next and the next. So say for instance, we're looking for anything on development, economics, and hopefully I'm spelling correctly. It looks like it. And then I add my and, which would be my Boolean operator. You can also do the plus or simply leave it blank because Google automatically adds the and within a space. And say, for instance, I want anything to do with South Africa. So South Africa can appear anywhere in the document. So essentially we're telling Google Scholar now, development economics must appear in the title of this document, South Africa anywhere else. And we search. And you can see, I think you'll all agree with me, 460 results for Google Scholar is very, very good. But we can be more specific. So say, for instance, we want less results because we don't want to filter and sift through 460. We can be more specific. But I just want to show you, as you can see, always highlighted development economics. So always in the title. Development economics and perspectives on South African economy. Right. So let's see what happens if I add an in title in my next phrase or my next keyword as well. We're down to 24 results. So at least we have results, and that's a very good sign. And it's very easy to quickly look through 24 results. So you see what I'm getting at. I start broad. So say, for instance, let's see what I get if I remove the in title from everything. And let's see. So we've got yes, a lot. So then the in title, we had 460 for development economics, and then adding the in title to South Africa as well reduces that results to 24. So you can see how effective this is already. So we'll use these or this specific modifier, the in title, on our most important keyword and work away from there. So again, in title, I simply write out in title one word, put the colon, and I don't put any space between that and the next character. So I will put my development economics and I keep the in title. Right, so I'm going to do a search on simply development economics for my next demonstration because I want to show you that it's also very useful for what we call snowballing. Now, snowballing is what we call when we have a single citation and we are struggling to find more information. We can use that single article or reference to find more information. And we would do that by using the cited by items. Now, this is any item or any article that cites this specific document. We can have a look at the cited articles. And obviously, that will also be more recent documents because it uses this one. So I'm going to use Development Economics, this book, as my first example. You can see, for instance, I've found this and I'm struggling, for instance, as an example, to find more relevant sources. So then I want to see what else or who has cited this one. Now you'll see if I look at the bottom of my search results on Google Scholar, all my tools sit below the specific record. So you'll see each record has all my tools at the bottom. There we are. So I'm going to look at the cited by items. So I'm going to select that and you'll see it's now showing me all 3,352 results that have cited development economics. Now, I think you'll all agree with me, it's not feasible to look through 3,000 or over 3,000 results. It's going to take some time and I might miss some important information because I think it does filter it by relevance. So you'll see again, as we saw from the advanced search options, we do have some filters on the left as well. So I can say that I'm looking for the latest since 2020, since 2021, since 2018, and I can go put a custom range, even in the cited by items, but I would also often do that on the normal, just my search. And then I can sort it by date or relevance. But what I would prefer doing is looking through these 3,000 odd articles, but searching within those articles to filter. So you'll see there's this search within citing articles option. So I'm selecting that and you'll see what happens now is Google tells me search citing articles. And now I'm going to look for anything that discusses South Africa. So within those 3,000 articles, I'm looking for anything that has the word South Africa anywhere. 645 of them still have it anywhere. That's still a lot for me. So let's filter a bit more. Let's do have it in title. And now I can see of all the cited articles, 16 have the word South Africa in title. And of course, yeah, I can add any keyword I want in this. Um, let's do macroeconomics. I apologize for my economically based keywords, everyone. I'm in the economics faculty, so that's what I'm used to. But here we can see that 567 discuss macroeconomics somewhere, and let's see how many of them have it in the title. 3. And now you can see how useful it is to look at those cited articles. So often you'll see it'll be like 20, but sometimes if you're working with a seminal work and an established older seminal work that maybe discusses theory, you'll often see something like 2,800 citations is quite common. But then you'd want to filter and work through that using the search within. Now, please remember, if we do another search and don't untick this box, it's constantly going to search within that. So I always like to click on the Google Scholar um, badge, or I forget the word, what we call that logo, and then we're searching from the start. Now remember, we could also search under advanced search, we could look for authors, but I'm quickly just going to do another search, let's say for entitled macroeconomics. Because the last thing I want to show you on Google Scholar is what we call Google Scholar profiles. Now, if you are doing research on a specific topic, you will often come across the same authors, those seminal authors, those important authors who you can't leave out or would be very well renowned in the topic or discipline you're working on. If you come across the same author constantly, it is very useful to look for the Google Scholar profile. So what the Google Scholar profile lists is all their previous research, or well, all their research, in fact. And you'll see this is very obvious that someone has one if you see an underlined author. So you'll see under the second record, and in fact, I've forgotten to actually increase this. Let me do that now. You'll see under the second record, we've got Abel, Blanchard, Crawshaw, but Bernanke is not underlined. So everyone has a profile on this publication except that one who's not underlined. And if I want to look at the specific profile, all I'll do is click on the author, and we'll see there. It takes me to their Google Scholar profile where I can look through all their Google Scholar results. Or their publications. You'll see their affiliations, and you'll see at the moment it is filtering it or sorting it by citations. So the most highly cited articles will be at the top, but we can also look at year. So if I click on the year, I can see their latest articles, and I can see whether anything else might be useful for my research. Now, like the snowballing, this is a very useful technique to expand my literature using the authors. Right. Then I'm quickly just going to do another search. Under the tools, there's also the others. You can save things. So if you are signed into your Google profile, you can save specific records to your profile. You see it's going to ask me to sign in. Yes, I'm not going to do that now. The cite by option also gives me an example of various citations. So this is what it would look like in Harvard. Remember that this is not Stellenbosch Harvard. And then obviously if you're using Mendeley, your BibTeX and your RefMan is also useful for exporting the information into the various bibliographic management tools. Right. I think that's all from my side with regard to Google Scholar. Elizabeth, I'm not sure if there's any specific questions you've gotten regarding Google Scholar. Want me to repeat anything?
There's been no questions as yet. If anybody wants anything repeated, please let us know now.
Okay, perfect. While we are waiting, if anyone wants to ask, I just quickly want to show you on the library's homepage, we do have a guide for Google Scholar. So from the library homepage, you'll see there sits our library guides block. If I select the image, it takes me to an A to Z list of all departments on campus and all guides we have. And if I scroll down to Google Scholar, where are we? My alphabet always lets me down. There we are. Google Scholar. And yeah, I can see just a lot of information about Google Scholar, Google Scholar, strategies for searching, and then there specifically under strategies for searching, you'll see is just a document on setting up your Google Scholar settings to link to the library holdings. So if there are any, if you're unsure or you've forgotten, just come back to the guide, or please get in touch with your faculty librarian who will also be able to point you in the right direction. Right.
Peplo, we do have
Yes.
one question.
Yes, please.
They said, did you explain what any type is?
Any type.
Yes, they're on the left-hand side under articles. Um,
Any type. Oh, I actually, so I think what this means, and please jump in Elizabeth as well, is that you're not specifically looking for a specific document. So I guess you can say, as you can see there, review article, this just searches Google Scholar for any information. I think that's what it is. I did not explain that. Thanks for that. So you can be specific and say, I'm only looking for review articles, but I quite like, because if you do use Google effectively, Google Scholar, you won't have to search for specific types. Let's just see what happens if we do any type. Oh, it is on any type. So it looks like you can only filter on any type or review articles. Thanks for that.
Pepler, there's
Yes.
another question. Does it have any something to do with it being peer reviewed? Is there a way to only check that it only gives you peer reviewed articles?
So unfortunately not. As far as I know, unfortunately, that is something that's a concern. So whenever we use Google and Google Scholar, you always have to be very discerning of the information you use. Now, I don't want to, I usually don't want to be a doom and gloom about it. For me, the view I take, and this is, it might differ from others, but I feel like we are going to have to encounter this information. So what I would do is I encourage the use of Google Scholar, but at the point of deciding whether I want to use something or not. So I found something, at that point, I just have to make sure that I do check things like the author, the affiliation, just look at the methods, is there transparency, the date, for instance. So just be discerning, but I don't want you to be discouraged, or I don't want to discourage you from using Google Scholar. There is, unfortunately, one of the drawbacks of Google Scholar is that there might be some predatory information that comes through. But again, the reality is we are going to encounter this. So we have to be able to identify it when we encounter it. So use it, but at some point when you decide on using information, always have that, do that double check, just do a quality check, whether it is credible information. Right. I hope I
Pepler,
answered that correctly.
we
Yes.
have one question. If you could just please repeat the entitle part, what it does.
Okay, right. So let me go again from Google Scholar, and I'm going to do that same search. So what the entitle does, it's the modifier that tells Google. So remember, the indexing on Google automatically searches the full text. So that is my title, my abstract, the entire document, which includes the reference list. So what you'll often see with information from Google is, for instance, for 2 out of the 5, as example, keywords that you get, you'll encounter that keyword quite often. But say, for instance, one keyword would appear once. So in that regard, Google can be very debilitating. I hope that's the right word, but it can be very discouraging when I get to a article and I see it only discusses this one aspect in one paragraph, which is not helpful for me. So what the in title does, it focuses the keyword and it tells Google that I want this specific keyword to appear within the title of the document. So for instance, I'm going to say I'm looking for the word, so in title colon, that's how I would insert my modifier. Excuse me. Then I would search as I normally would. So for instance, I want to do a quotation mark exact phrase search for development economics. Economics. So again, that's my exact phrase. If I were to OR this and put it in a bracket, please remember that you would have to put the OR for every single keyword. So let me do it. I'm not going to do it on development economics. I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to say either in title Africa. And remember, case doesn't matter, so I don't have to write in capitals, or in title South Africa. And again, what I'm telling Google now is each of these keywords must appear in the title of my document, and I've got quite a number, and I suspect it's because of this or. Um, ah, sorry, I've made a mistake, and then over here the or. See, even the librarians still get confused sometimes. There we are. So 71 results. So in title, development economics, as you can see from the highlights, and Africa there it has South Africa. So the in title, again, saying that this title must appear in my, this keyword must appear in the title of my document. I hope that's clearer now. Please remember, you'll write the in title, colon, and then no space between that and the next character. So if it's a single word, just Africa, as you can see. If it's a phrase, South Africa, just put the quotation mark next to the colon. Elizabeth, any other questions?
No, it seems everyone is happy.
Perfect. And I'm hoping that this gets you excited about searching Google Scholar, but I think the excitement's also going to start on normal Google now. So let's go to Google .coza. There we are. Okay, so like with Google Scholar, we want to be very effective. Now, remember, Google Scholar only indexes what it sees as scholarly information. Google indexes popular information. So it would include a lot of the information from Google Scholar, but yeah, it also includes a lot of websites, anything else that's not necessarily traditionally published, if I can put it that way. So a lot of gray literature also sits here. Things that are published by associations, organizations, companies, and this is where we would search very effectively if we are looking for that. So for instance, we're looking for information from industry, produced, say, for instance, by a specific organization. So say, for instance, we're looking for information from the World Health Organization. What is the most effective way of going about this? And that's really what I want to show you now. So remember, the same applies with Google as with Google Scholar. So same indexing idea. It searches our title. If there's an abstract, it'll search that, the entire document, which includes the reference list if there is one. So in Google Scholar, we want to be very specific, and just also to address the question of using the information and just avoiding predatory information. With Google, we are going to be extra careful about what we use. And obviously, this is also situation specific, depending on the information we're looking for. So if we are looking for company information, we will search on that company's website, depending on the information we're looking for. Right, so let's get started. I'm going to do an in title, as we are very familiar with already. And I'm going to say I'm looking for anything to do with, and I'm going to, apologies, I'm going to stick to economics. And I'm going to also say anything to do with South Africa again. But yeah, I'm going to do in title from the start because we want to be specific. And here we can see 8,800 results, and it's coming from a lot of things. Brookings.edu, educational. There's Oxford University's Press Scholarship. There's Stats SA. So there is a lot of information. There's the NIH, recepsun.ac.za. Right. So again, we can be more specific. So as we add our keywords, I would encourage a lot more keywords in Google. Again, depending on what you're looking for, let's say also anything with the word macro. 1,240, let's say in title, let's see. 45. Okay, and you'll agree with me, we've gone from a lot to less to less. So this is very useful using simply the in title already. But we can go a step further in Google. And this is very useful if, like I said, we're looking for specific company information. So say, for instance, we want to search a specific domain. So we can go say in URL. And we can say we are looking for information on a specific domain. So say, for instance, I'm looking for anything from Stellenbosch domain. So sun.ac.za. And I'm looking for anything to do with, let's say, COVID. I want to see what they have that discusses COVID. And we search. So we can see immediately all the information coming from sun.ac.za. And if I scroll down, but there is a lot. You can see 24,100. So let's be more specific. I'm going to say I'm looking for this domain, but I'm going to say in title. So we can combine all our modifiers. And I'm going to say COVID in title. Now we can see we're down to 987. And that's already very useful. Let's say we are looking for anything, and I'm taking a chance now. Again, sticking to economics, sticking to my guns. Now, I always call this the ultimate form of flattery. Google will think you're a robot if you search like this. So let me just verify that I'm not a robot. And there we are down 2343. And we can be more specific again in title. Now, do you see how I'm working broadly? I'm starting with the broadest search I can to see what I get, and then I focus and hone in on the more specific information. And there we have one result. So again, this might be then too specific, so I'll pull back a bit and maybe remove that in title. So now essentially we've told Google, I want the information from this domain. So in URL sun.ac.za, and it must contain within the title COVID and somewhere in the document. So this is anywhere on the website, the word economics. And we can see we're down to 343. This is very useful, so we can have a look at that. Right. The last thing I want to mention is it is also possible to do, remember we talked about the define and file type. Now the define, I don't use that often, but please use it if you do want. It's the same principle as the file type as the in URL. But I'm going to say maybe I'm looking for a PDF specifically. So I'm going to say file type, again, file type colon PDF. PDF search, and there I can see 236 articles with a PDF attached. And we can pull back a bit. So say, for instance, we don't want the Sun specific domain, but we want an academic domain. So .ac.za, in title COVID, and file type PDF. And you can see now always the ac.za. So your in URL doesn't always have to be the full URL. So say, for instance, so yeah, let's pull back with, so whenever I search for a specific domain, I first look at what their URL is. So say, for instance, we're looking at the World Health Organization. I'll go search and I'll see, okay, they are who.int. So now we can go, okay, maybe I'm looking for in URL who.int. So that's their specific domain, anything to do with COVID, and it must have a PDF attached. So let's see. 6,000, so that's still a lot. Let's add more and say maybe South Africa. Anything that has the word South Africa somewhere and file type PDF. That brings us down to 1130. So maybe we can do an in title. Let's be brave. And nothing. Okay, we've tried. So now we pull back again. And you can see always coming from different sections or parts of that domain, but always the who.int appearing. Now that is a very big domain. I suspect that's why we're getting so many results, but you get the idea. So we can search specific domains for the information we want. And you can apply all these modifiers in a single search. So that's always very useful. And the nice thing with a file type PDF, what I like about it, it doesn't necessarily make it more academic, but in my view, it does remove a lot of those random blogs and things that you might not necessarily want to search on. So it's a very useful modifier, the file type PDF. That file type is any file type. So if you are looking for a specific file type, just look for that extension and see. I haven't had much luck other than PDF, but I suspect it might just be the I'm writing it incorrectly. But anyway, search for the file type you're looking for and see if you can find anything that you want. But for me, the most effective one for information is that PDF. Right. I think I've covered all of that. Are there any specific questions? Anything you'd like me to repeat, Elizabeth? Anything in the chat?
There is a question
Yes,
that
please.
just says MS Word with a question mark. So I
Okay, let's
think
see.
it's
Is
asking if
it
you could look
doc?
for a word.
Is
Yeah,
it a
it's
dot? Is it a dot doc,
doc.
right? Yeah, let's see. Yeah. Let's just see doc. Yeah, it's a strange thing. I've had luck with an Excel once before, but the PDF is it XL XS. Yeah, for some reason. Let's just do this. Maybe it might be my phrases.
Try docx is a suggestion.
Doc X. Okay, see it might be that there's no information on that, so doc X, like so.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, so flattered. There we are, more palm trees. Yes, let's see. Okay, also not, but play around with it. So it might be the doc, I'm not sure, but the Excel was now picked up without the other keywords. Let's try txt. That's a text file. So it's picking that up. Yeah, I'm not sure why we're not having luck with the doc, unfortunately. But the PDF, I can assure you, works very well. The TXT, we saw the Excel. Just be
Pipla,
careful. Yes.
the other question is, can you sort by date in Google?
That's a very good question, and unfortunately, I'm not aware of. Let's look under tools. I don't think so. Where are we? There we are. Anytime. So it just gives you a custom range. There we are. So yes, you can. Under tools, you'll see there sits your tools, and there we are, past hour, past week, custom range. So we can say 2022 from let's say 2020, if we're looking for the 2022. Go. And there we are. Yes, perfect. So under tools, you can also do a lot more results. Not sure the verbatim, and you can clear, and you can also say the country, it seems. There's also, so sorry, before we move on, any other questions, Elizabeth?
No.
Perfect. Right. So I just wanted to show you also Google Images as well as Google Books. Don't forget Google Books is very useful. So Google Images allows you to actually reverse search. So if I click on Google Images, I can actually upload an image and I can see who owns it. Where is it appearing? So there you see upload image, and I can actually attach from my I actually forgot to just download one and check, but all you do is simply upload the image you found, and Google will actually reverse search it and tell you where it appears. So that's a nice way of seeing who owns copyright, for instance. Where is it coming from? You're looking for it, for instance. That's a very nice way of searching for images. And then the Google Books is very useful, and I also use this a lot because as much as I love our catalog does has its limits because it often only searches the titles and the keywords that are associated with the book. Google Books, however, searches the full document. So it is very nice to identify information. So again, let's say development economics. And South Africa. And then what happens is it will identify a lot of information that does have it elsewhere. And what you could then have is maybe a chapter that's useful. So then you can see, okay, does the library have the book? Let's check on the library catalog. So that's a very useful way of also finding books because it searches the full text. So if a book doesn't have it in the title, but you know, for instance, there's a chapter, I'll just take this, for instance. Okay, this is an obvious one. It does have it in the title. But for instance, maybe this one, we can search in the library catalog. I hope I copied it. And I think we do have this book. And there we have it, full text available. Right, so that's Google and Google Scholar. If there are no questions, I quickly just want to go through a few examples with you. Elizabeth, all good still?
Yeah, there don't seem to be questions. Just there has been a link with pasted in that gives you all the different file types. There is now a question about how to search Google patents. Do you want to cover that?
Well, I think it's simply, I've actually not worked with Google Patents a lot. I'm not sure if you have, Elizabeth, but I know that there's in Google the option to search for patents specifically. Let me just go. It's do a search, again, just for lack of a better term, economics, and you can, or was it now Google Scholar that I'm thinking of?
Yes, it's in Google
Yes,
Scholar. When you do search in Google Scholar, it gives you the option to search for patents specifically.
perfect. Thanks,
And
Elizabeth.
then you, on the side there, you can see there where people is ticking, include patents, and then you'll be able to actually retrieve any patents that you want. There is also a specific Google patent search. I would just caution everybody that it is very much leaned towards American patents and European patents, not necessarily South African patents. So you would still need to go search for South African ones elsewhere.
Yes, and I assume the normal Google modifiers would apply to this as well. So again, I don't know how much we're going to find, but let's see. Huh. Let's just see normal economics. Okay, so it seems the normal don't apply. That's interesting. I learn every day. Okay, now it works again. I'm not sure if we said, yeah, patents. There we are. Thanks, Elizabeth, and thanks for that question. Right. So I quickly want to jump then to the specific examples. So for instance, just to show you how I would go about searching for this information. So if we're looking for the first one, statistics or report on higher education in South Africa, there are many ways to get to Rome. So for this one, I would do an in title. So let's just zoom again and we'll do, so in title, remember to spell spell correctly. So higher education, we wanted anything to do with higher education, statistics. So in this case, I know, for instance, Stats SA might have a lot. So I would do statssa.gov.za, and I would search. And again, ultimate form of flattery, tractors. And there we have. So everything from Stats SA with higher education somewhere in the title. There we are. So just to show you, if we just did normally, it would be 9,000. So to be more specific, in title, higher education. And then we could be more specific if we had more to go, say, file type, PDF. And we'll get 24. So again, you'll agree with me, it's so effective to do it this way. But again, start broad, see what you get, and then apply your modifiers and evaluate the results that you get. Right, the next one I quickly want to demonstrate, we're looking for anything on the economics of coffee. So for the first one, statistics information, I would normally start with Google, but for something more academically inclined, I would start with Google Scholar. So yeah, I would actually go to Google Scholar and do the in title. So you will do an in title, looking for anything on economics, spell properly, and anything with in title coffee. So 211, and I think again, very useful. Not so many results to search for. Or to search through 211. There's a nice book. So you can look through any of these. So with Google Scholar, I would focus more than on the in title, as with Google, the in URL file type is also very useful. And then finally, I'm looking for a PDF article on white collar crime and economics. And again, my apologies for all the economically focused information. So it's a PDF article on white collar crime and economics. So again, we'll say in title, white collar crime. And we'll combine that with economics. And again, because we're looking for a PDF, file type PDF. And Google helps me again with my spelling. There we are, 825. So we can be more specific and say in title and search. And now we have 3. Right, so that's really all the information I wanted to share with you today. Thank you for your time. I really hope that this gets you excited about searching for your information, excited about searching for Google, searching using Google. Again, please be very discerning of the information you use. Make sure that you are just doing a quick evaluation of the information coming from Google and making sure that it is coming from a reputable source, an expert in the field, for instance, and that you aren't just grabbing the first thing you find. Right. Elizabeth, any questions on the chat?
No, but there is a hand raised, so I don't know
Yes,
if you want to
please.
unmute yourself and ask a question.
Okay, this is Fred. I'm trying to apply what our panelist is talking about. So if I need a book, for instance, do I write maybe file type book entitled, then I give, or what if, because I've seen when you wrote maybe file type, you got several books plus PDFs and so on.
Yes, so the file type has to do with the extension on the file, so I wouldn't add the book there. So for instance, if you look at the screen here, something like PDF would be more, would be better to use. I mean, I'm always open for experimenting. Let's see what happens if we say book. Yeah, no results. So if you're looking for a book specifically, I would use something like Google Books rather.
Okay.
But remember, if you're searching very effectively using these modifiers, start broad. Don't be too specific about the information you're looking for. I always talk about known and unknown searching. In this case, we're doing unknown searching. We just want any information on the topic we're looking for. So just start broad, see what is there. And then if you are specifically looking for a book, I would focus my search on Google Books. But in that case, because we are already being specific on Google Books, I would leave out something like file type. But again, interrogate your results. Start with a broader, don't use file type. So my examples were very specific because I wanted to demonstrate specific modifiers. But again, start broad. I would start, for instance, on in title with my very my most important keyword and work my way down. For instance, I get 10,000 results. Let's add an in title to economics as well, for instance. I'm still getting a lot of results. Let's see what happens if I do file type. Remember, with each modifier you add, you could possibly be excluding results that might be important. So always keep in mind at what cost does the modifier come? And I know this sounds, but always remember that what are the implications of the modifier I'm adding. So that's why I always say start broad, see what is out there, what you get, and what I can work through. And again, the in URL and in file type is much more focused on Google. I hope that answered your question. Anything else, Elizabeth?
No more questions, but you guys are more than welcome to unmute yourself, or if you
Exactly.
want to ask any questions or put it in the chat. Lots of people have said great session and thank you, and we've opened some eyes, which is
Wonderful.
always fun to to hear for
Exactly.
us. That's why we're
Definitely.
here. So yeah, if you've got any more questions, please, you feel free to unmute yourself and ask or type it in the chat.
Exactly. Okay, well, I think we'll stick around a bit longer if there are any specific questions, but I'd like to thank everyone for attending today. It's been my pleasure sharing this knowledge with you. Like I said, I always get very excited when I'm helping students and we find so much information um, in this way and really help that it helps you to refine your searching and really focus on the information and hone in on the information you need. Remember, Google Scholar is very useful when it is information published by an organization or from industry, from a company. Using the in title, the in URL is very effective. And remember, this is not only for academic searching, this is for all searching that you do. For instance, I don't waste my time on a website searching and going through the navigation, the menus and things. I simply go in URL, find the website, add that, and then say what I'm looking for and click through and using Google's infrastructure I find what I'm looking for very fast. So this is a lifelong skill that you don't only have to use for your research, but it is very useful for your everyday life searching as well. Right, I'm going to unshare at this point. If there are still questions, please pop it in the chat. Let us know. We will stick around.
There is a question, but
Yes,
Marie, but I don't think we can answer it. Marie Roo, are you still on the call?
Yes, I am.
So the question relating to the Teams links, I think it's for the Research Week different ones.
Yes, I was just typing to answer, but it's good to answer in person. I will certainly share now from now on in the mornings rather the links that might be helpful. Is that what she's asking now? You remember there's different training, so it will be 3 hours before every session that I will send out the links, the reminder with a link included. Okay, thank you.
Perfect, thanks. And I'll also take this opportunity to encourage you to look at the rest of today's sessions. We've got Celine Delport from the Writing Lab or the Language Center that's presenting on proposal writing. That one's very useful. I'm attending that myself. And then Elizabeth is also presenting on literature reviews later today. So please have a look at those sessions. But I want to thank everyone for your participation, for your time. And again, I'm hoping that this is encouraging you and getting you excited about searching for the information you need. Thanks, everyone.